Hello and welcome to the Pulse of Spokane. We are here today with Sailor Guevara, who is here with Uncle Nearest Whiskey. Sailor, how's it going?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Doing pretty well. How's your week been so far?
It's been busy, but that's a
Yeah,
good thing. Yeah.
definitely. So let's talk a little bit about Uncle Nearest. So this is a brand of whiskey.
Yes.
What do you do for them?
So I am actually our Washington State Market Manager. I have a brand ambassador role. So my job basically is to tell the story of Uncle Nearest, tell the story of our brand, and make sure people drink the whiskey.
Absolutely. And how did you first get connected with the company?
I've been in the spirits industry for a very long time. I'm now what you call a veteran. And I came across the story in the newspaper years ago, and it just blew my mind. Being in the whiskey business for many, many years, we've had a diversity and inclusion problem for a very long time in spirits as a whole, globally, but specifically in American whiskey. It's been a problem. And so when I saw that there's an African American woman launching a brand to commemorate the legacy of an African American man in American whiskey, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
There wasn't a brand at the time, but I kind of earmarked that story and then came across it about a year and a half later that she had actually launched a brand of whiskey. And I thought, I have to be a part of this. And I always say when I tell this story, I sent her a message on Facebook.
Oh,
And she
really?
answered it.
Oh, wow.
And I have never gone back and looked at that message because I think I would probably cringe. I said something like, I have to work for you and you have to have me work for you. I don't
Oh my
even know.
gosh.
So
Fangirling.
yeah, exactly. I was just so moved by the story. I was moved by what she was attempting and was doing, moved by the thought that this is going to change the narrative of American whiskey
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a part of that. And also, it was a woman leading the brand, a very strong, successful woman. And that spoke to me as a woman who's been, kicking open doors and breaking glass ceilings in this industry for a long time. So
Absolutely.
for some reason, they said, okay, and here I am.
That's amazing. So yeah, it is Black History Month where
It
we
is.
celebrate the achievements and contributions of African Americans.
Yes.
So tell us about the origin story of Uncle Nearest.
It's a big, big story. So the quickest way I can tell it is that Uncle Nearest, his name was Nearest Green. Uncle Nearest is a respectful, endearing term, and it was what he wished to be called. He actually was brought to a farm in Tennessee as a slave and was the master distiller for a young preacher named Dan Call and distilled whiskey for many years. And eventually, a little boy named Jasper, who would go on to be known as Jack Daniels, came to the farm and lived with the Call family. And Nearest taught him everything he knew about making whiskey. And so they ended up making whiskey together and had a very, very close personal relationship and business relationship. So Uncle Nearest is the first master distiller for the Jack Daniels brand, and he's also the
Oh, wow.
first African American master distiller on record in the United States,
Wow.
which is huge. And his sons went on to work for the Jack Daniels brand after he retired. And so Nearest's son, George Green, is the second master distiller for the Jack Daniels brand as well.
Wow.
So this is a true story of love, honor, and respect. And my founder and CEO, named Fawn Weaver, was a best-selling author and came across a story in the New York Times several years ago, basically saying that it's possible that there was a slave behind the story of the Jack Daniels brand. And so when she came across this article, being an African-American woman herself, she recognized if this was true and she could corroborate it, that it would change everything. A brand
Yeah.
as big as Jack Daniels, you don't have to be a drinker to know it.
Right.
And so she couldn't find anything on the internet, contacted the author of the article, and so ended up flying from LA to little tiny Lynchburg, Tennessee, and spent several days digging up what she could and surprisingly finding a lot of information to really, truly corroborate the story. And it turned out that Lynchburg has known the story forever. And it wasn't, like they were hiding it. And so she started by building a nonprofit organization to give Fulbright scholarships to the descendants of Nearest Green. And so I believe at this point, have maybe 13 descendants who have gone through this program, master's, PhD, as far as you want to go. We don't have a master distiller yet, but we'll get there, I'm sure.
Wow.
And then after that, she's just getting together with the family and continuing to talk about what she could do to solidify his legacy and bring it to light. One of his granddaughters, who is still alive at 106, said, well, why don't you put his name on a bottle of whiskey? And she thought, well, I guess I'm going to have to create a whiskey brand now. And that's exactly what she did.
Wow. What an incredible story.
It's an amazing story. I always say we have two parts. We have our historical part and then our modern part. As a modern brand, we're the most awarded American whiskey or bourbon for 2 years. We are the most awarded in history, which is just mind-blowing for this industry. We are the fastest growing major spirits brand in U.S. history as well.
Wow.
The first to be major spirits brand to be owned by an African-American and an African-American woman. And the first to have an all-female executive board as well.
Wow.
And the whiskey, by the way, like I said, we're the most awarded. It's amazing.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. So a question for you is, why do you think it's important to hear stories like these origin stories coming from African-American people who've brought this legacy on?
Yeah, just like the movie Hidden Figures was a box office hit, right? We all know the movie Hidden Figures.
Absolutely.
And although there were parts of it that were not true, the majority of it was true. And it's important to know that. It's important, just like we know who Thomas Edison is. We should know who Uncle Nearest is. We should know these hidden figures because they are American history.
Exactly.
And they deserve just as much respect and light shown on their legacy as anyone else. So we are American history, regardless of our color, our race, our religion.
Couldn't agree more. Amazing. So let's talk about the whiskey now.
Sure.
You've got a couple different types, right?
Yes.
Do you have recommendations, favorites?
So really the two that we have here, 1856 and 1884, all of our whiskeys are named by a year, and that has to do with Nearest legacy. So we know by census records that he was born in 1820. And we have a single barrel whiskey called 1820. Then we have 1856, which was our flagship, and that is the year that he perfected the Lincoln County process.
Okay.
You might have heard it as charcoal mellowing.
Oh.
That was perfected by Nearest Green. And so to be a Tennessee whiskey, to put that word on the bottle legally, you have to use that process.
Oh, wow.
So since he perfected that process on the farm all those years ago, he is the godfather of Tennessee whiskey. And so that was the year we know he perfected that process. 1884 is our small batch. This is a really exciting story about this bottle. That's the year that he laid down his last barrel to retire, and his sons took over. Now, on the back of that bottle, there is a signature on every bottle. Victoria Edie Butler. That is his great-great-granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
She is our master blender.
Okay.
She also did not come from the spirits industry. She was brought onto the executive board. The family members sit on the executive board of our nonprofit. And she was the one that became most interested in it. Turned out she had a heck of a palate. And so she was trained to be a master blender. And so she blends all of our 1884. And as a matter of fact, 2 days ago, she just won a very prestigious award as an Icon of Whiskey Master Blender of the Year for 2020.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it is truly the family that is involved in this spirit. And I think Nearest would find it absolutely incredible that Victoria would receive such an award and make such a beautiful whiskey. So.
Oh, definitely. So if people want to learn more or want to get their hands on a bottle, how can they do that?
So our website, unclenearest.com, social media, we're pretty much everywhere right now. Our brand is exploding, and I was making a joke earlier that the new people that come to our company, we tell them to buckle up and put on a neck brace because we're growing so fast, which is wonderful. We're such a beloved brand, and that's an incredible thing to experience and be a part of. You can pretty much find it in any liquor store, and if they don't have it, you can just ask them to bring it in. And locally, one of our favorite stores is Eggers in South Hill. We absolutely love Eggers. You can find it there, and of course, all of the larger stores as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And thank you, Sailor, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you for telling us the origins to celebrate Black History Month.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Pulse of Spokane.
June 26, 2016. The New York Times did a story indicating Jack Daniels may have been started with the help of a slave. There was little proof to go on, so I got on a plane and flew 1,800 miles to Lynchburg, Tennessee. This single act of ambitious curiosity would reveal my destiny and change the course of my life forever. 6 states and many months of research later, with the assistance of more than 20 historians, researchers, archivists, and genealogists, and more than 10,000 documents and original artifacts reviewed, we had pieced together the story of Nathan Nearest Green, the world's first known African-American master distiller. With the help of Nearest Green and Jack Daniel descendants, we launched our brand, Uncle Nearest Premium Whiskey. We pounded the pavement city by city, preaching this history and pouring our delicious whiskey. Our ragtag crew assembled organically, rapidly from all parts of the world, spirit industry veterans and newcomers alike. As our story spread, more and more amazing humans wanted to be a part of our larger mission. We were and will always be stewards of a legacy. Building upon the heritage of Nearest Green, we have become the fastest growing independent American whiskey brand in U.S. history, and during the last 2 years have won more awards than any other American whiskey. Yes, that includes bourbon, an astounding 153. This company is founded on love, honor, and respect. We are building a brand to outlive us, and we are just getting started. I'm Fawn Weaver, founder and CEO of Uncle Nearest, and on behalf of our team and the family of Nearest Green, we'd simply like to say thank you.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
Welcome to Tom Sawyer Country Coffee.
Tom Sawyer Country Coffee only roasts the finest organic coffee for our signature blends. Enjoy a cup at our coffee shop and local businesses and organizations across the region.
I'm Tom Sawyer, and we choose the Pacific Northwest.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful. It needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Pulse. We are where you are. Check us out on any of these other platforms, as well as our website. This show is sponsored by Local 29 Firefighters Union, Homes for You, and Apex Cannabis.